Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the year-end processes, reports, important dates, and rollover webinar. This is the third or fourth year, I believe, that we've done this webinar. I'd like to introduce myself first. I'm Josie Wilson, the Deputy Director here at Yellowhead Regional Library, and I'll let my colleague introduce herself.
Hi there, I'm Carla Yakelli. I'm the Manager of Collections and Resource Sharing at Yellowhead.
All right, so today we'll go to the next slide, please. Today, by the end of this webinar, you should be able to understand what our year-end timelines here are at Yellowhead. You should be able to complete your orders that you would like to submit to us before the year-end cutoff date. And you should be able to identify which reports YRL will send to you in December as part of our year-end processes to help you out with your year-end processes and audit. And then we also hope that you will be able to be prepared to run the annual report in January, as we will do a brief introduction of the annual report at the end of the webinar. Next slide, please. So in this webinar, we provide a bit more of a whole organization view of year-end processes, including not just collections and resource sharing, but the annual report and technology services. So the technology services would like to remind everyone that you may continue to order new computers, printers, and other equipment through that department. However, orders placed now, so starting November through December, may not arrive until 2026. So if you do require items to be invoiced in 2025, please let your technology services colleagues know when you're placing that order so that they can assist with arrangements, as we'll need to do some different processes in order to get those billed out before they arrive if you need that invoice in your 2025 budget year. If you do have any questions, you can reach out to helpdesk@yrl.ab.ca for any quotes or questions that you may have about ordering computers. And if you have items that are currently on order and you're wondering, are they arriving soon, you can also email them to ask that as well. Next slide, please. So now we'll get into the updates for collections and resource sharing, the CRS department. Next slide, please. So every year we like to introduce this part by giving you a little bit of information about what we're seeing and facing in the current environment. This slide is very similar to last year because we are currently thinking about very similar things as we were at this time last year. And I think that they're becoming even more important this year. That is that you need to make sure that your collections policies and procedures are up to date. This is really now more important than ever. What does this mean? It involves developing clear plans that outline your donations procedures, your selection criteria, the process and forms to accompany your request for reconsideration procedures. So that's if somebody in your community challenges an item that you have, and having the policy framework in place to reinforce these procedures. So many of you have these policies in place. However, you may not have the subsequent procedures of what staff actually do if somebody comes up and challenges a book at the front desk or emails a book challenge in. And you need to be prepared to not only have the policies, but what to do if this happens. And I like to include this as a reminder because if this is something that is not on your radar or you're thinking, oh, this is something that we need to improve upon, now is a great time to approach your board and get that on, if it's a policy update, get that on their work plan for 2026, or to get that on your work plan as the manager in terms of procedure for 2026. The other thing that we have been experiencing this year and will continue to experience into next year is, of course, our movement from the classic Track Pack to Track Pack Plus and changing your integrated library system platform, from using Polaris desktop client to using Leap, which is available through a web browser. And all of these things are important things to keep in mind because it's been a lot of change this past year. And this could have changed some of your internal procedures for how you order items, for how you run reports, and are things to keep in mind as you're going through year end. Next slide. And I'll pass it now over to Carla to talk about our specific dates and deadlines that we have coming up.
Thanks, Josie. Okay, so what is year end in CRS, in the Collections Resource Sharing Department? It means wrapping up orders and receiving, so the acquisitions part. And this includes spending out of the e-content contributions and then running reports on all of your accounts. We do a really deep dive into all of the funds and the order statuses. There's a lot of back and forth with the vendors, cleaning up like long ordered items, back ordered items, making sure that's all settled up as well. And what we're really trying to do is ensure accuracy at the rollover to make sure that you don't lose any of your funds. So what this helps us do is set up for 2026, set up the allotments, the standing orders, and then doing the rollover of the accounts and orders. So for acquisitions, the fiscal year is 2025 ASGY. And this will mean at the year end halting ordering in order to reconcile the accounts. So it will be for this fiscal year, the 2025 fiscal year. And we encourage you to follow a similar timeline in order to get the most accurate information for your libraries as well, for your own budgeting and reporting procedures. So when we do reconciliation, we're reconciling your additional allotment contributions, any digital content contributions, and then the collections that are here at YRL, the HQ collections. I'll just add to Josie, if there's anything that you want to just jump in and say too on any of these, please go ahead. Okay, so something else to consider at this time in the year is whether you want to be setting up orders for standing orders. There's two options for standing orders. There's the juvenile and teen series and paperbacks and adult paperbacks. Why would you maybe want to order these? So some of the reasons, if you don't want to be doing active collection development in those areas, you just want to be provided with basically the list of items and the items. And if you're a smaller library with a smaller budget, this may be a good option for you as well. Also, if you have a lot of patrons who are into browsing, they like to come in and see the new that's in, this is a good option to make sure that you always have that stuff coming in and refreshing the collection. If you don't know your current setup, so if you don't know if you have standing orders and in what areas, or if you'd like some help evaluating the standing orders that you have to see if in fact like they are going out, if they're living up to your CERC expectations of them, then just feel free to get in touch with us and we can help you out with that. So this is, I think Josie told me this is the most important slide. So everyone please pay attention to this slide. This is the CRS year-end timeline for 2025. So on Friday, December 5th, that is the deadline for libraries to place their orders for the 2025 fiscal year. On Friday, December 12th, that will be the final shipping for new books. And from December 15th to 18th, we'll be receiving the last set of new books for 2025, which will include invoices and packing slips. And that will also be when we're conducting the YRL rollover. Year-end reports will be emailed at that time. And then looking ahead to next year, January 16, 2026 is when we would expect your new allotment to display in your funds. Just a note, you can still create and submit orders in CCD after December 5th. YRL will just be like parking those and submitting those orders to the vendors starting January 8th, 2026. So you can still do work if you have time to do that in December, that's fine. YRL just won't be submitting the actual orders until next year. Okay, Some information about year-end reports. So we recently trialed running reports for the libraries and emailing them out, and it worked very well. So we're going to be able to do that again this year, and it just helps us run them at specified dates to get the most accurate results. So we'll be doing this again this year, just to make sure that everything is as accurate as can be, and we just send it out to you. Once the rollover happens, it's very challenging to run some of those reports, and the results might not be as accurate. So Leap Polaris, it's not accounting software, but we do recommend that you reconcile your spreadsheets with the information that you will be getting out of Leap. And I'm just looking through the notes here. That's good. Okay, so a little bit more on the year-end reports. We'll be sending out a detailed on-order report, which may include back-ordered items, a canceled items report. There won't be any information about why an item was canceled, but just please email us if you have any questions. And then a fund expenditure report, which is what you actually received in 2025. Josie, did I hit everything for that one? Is that good? Okay, great. Okay, so a little bit of information about the funds. There are kind of three that you will be most interested in. The allotment, or the code is AED. It includes all the amounts from various boards. The additional allotment, the AEDA, are funds that you send in to be spent through YRL. And then the bill direct AED7 is what we invoice you for your purchases. Okay, if you have multiple funds, you'll get reports for each fund. Okay, a few frequently asked questions. Do I lose my allotment if anything is left unspent? No. So all of the account balances and any on order or encumbered orders will roll over into the next year. Okay. What happens to the items that are still on order? These items will also get rolled over as encumbrances in the new fiscal year. So nothing will be getting lost. We're making sure that everything still matches up, and anything that is unspent or on order will get rolled over into the new year. Okay, what if I want to make another overdrive contribution? So the deadline for submitting funds for overdrive contributions is also December 5th. The deadline for picking any overdrive titles is December 12th. Okay, so there's a similar timeline for those. And how do I submit extra funds as additional allotment? All checks or EFTs have to be received at YRL by Friday, December 5th. So that's just over a month away. If you don't think that you can meet these deadlines, just please contact me, and that we should be expecting something, and so that I know when to expect it. So just please keep in touch with us as you go. If there's anything about these deadlines or any questions or anything outstanding that is causing concern, please just contact us. One note also, if you are thinking about sending in something sending in funds via check, please just keep an eye out because of the strike. We'd ask that you contact me, and then we'll figure out how to get it here in case there's a concern about any disruption to the mail delivery. Okay. Question about year to date and what current previous year to date means. And I had to walk this back in my mind. So it's switched over in January, and the current previous year to date will be the year before. So our current previous year to date is 2024. In 2026, the current previous year to date will be 2025. Did I get that right? Yes. Okay. When will the new allotment appear in my account? So we talked about this a bit already. It should be by January 16th, 2026, as the money starts to come in and we add everything in. One question, how is the allotment calculated? You will receive an allotment letter in January that outlines funds allocated to your library by the boards or the municipalities in your geographic area. So please keep an eye out for that. Okay, I'm going to switch. Oh, no, I'm going to do this part again. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about the annual report coming up in January. So what is the annual report? It's the opportunity to share with PLSB the statistics and the stories from your library that happened in the last year. So every year they ask for this information, and some years changes a lot, changes a bit. Usually it's the same kind of thing. They're trying to get a sense of how people are using libraries in Alberta. So they ask for this information. The annual report is also tied to your operating grant. So PLSB requires that you complete the annual report by the deadline of February 28th in order to receive your operating grant in a timely manner. It gives us lots of time. we've started talking about it now, and we will be helping get you what you need for that. Don't worry about it until the new year. We need to finish compiling some of those stats here at YRL, as I mentioned, and you won't be getting your final data from Polaris until after midnight on December 31st. So we'll be hosting another webinar in early January. We'll talk about the report, help you fill it out, answer any questions you have, usually around the second week of January. Okay. So look forward to that, and please sign up. Okay, how to access your annual report. So all of the instructions for running the annual report in Polaris are on the intranet under the Reports and Statistics tab. That has it been updated for LEAP, Josie? Do we know at this point? We're not sure yet.
I think we have not.
Okay.
However, is it the next screen or was it the screen before and I might have just missed it? It's still under utility. Here it is.
This is the one, yeah.
Is the right kind of string to get to your annual report in LEAP, and it hasn't changed a lot. So it's still in utilities, reports, and notices. The main difference is that it just pops you out into what we call a report server, and the reports are organized the same way. You just hit browse Polaris, and then you can find the custom reports, and they're all still there. It just looks a little bit different. But if you are having any issues at all, you can always email Ask YRL, and we're happy to help. And there'll also be I'm fairly sure, because we have a lot of new library managers again this year, that we'll do an annual reports webinar in January that will do a much more deep dive into all of this. So this is just an introduction for today.
Thank you. Okay. See if there's anything else here. Yes, so we'll be sharing that information and having the webinar available. Once we are back to work in the new year, we will update the links for all the statistics and the resources that we provide for you to make sure that everything's up to date for when you start answering those reports. But please feel free to go in and check those out at any time. And you can take a look now at instructions for how to fill out the annual report if that's something you want to get a head start on, because the instructions themselves, we wouldn't anticipate those changing. There's also a link on the intranet to the PLSB website and to the LibPass login. For anyone who hasn't done an annual report before, LibPass is the name of the tool that PLSB uses to collect the information. If you don't know the login, you'll need to contact PLSB for that information. They handle the login information. It's not something that we can help you with at YRL. They do have contact information on the PLSB page, so please reach out to them in advance for that login information so you can get started. Okay, so just a note about this, about running that report. We'd ask that you run the report after January 1st so that the statistics are up to date if you are planning on anyway, when you do that, make sure that you're doing it after January 1st. Josie pointed out the new path of how to do that in LEAP. And this is the report that will help you answer many of the questions that you will need in order to fill out the annual report. But there are still some questions that you'll need to answer on your own. So for example, public computer usage. If you haven't had a system installed like Deep Freeze or Cybrarian, then you can track public computer usage for a week. This is just a note. You can instead do tracking for a week and then extrapolate that for the rest of the year. Just a note, like PLSB is okay with that kind of estimation for some of the numbers that can be harder to track, especially if you don't have special software. But there is a lot of information that they require that you can just run the Polaris annual report for in the new year. Yeah, so just to prime you for thinking about that. Some of the other statistics that we have to provide would be around e-resources, website analytics. That's some more things that we could be taking a look at for the annual report. Okay, anything else? That last one felt funny. Okay, great. So I think that is the end of our webinar here. We'll just say, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to pop them into the chat. And that, I'm just going to stop. I'll leave that up for a moment, just in case anyone needs the contact info. Just looking here. If there are not, let's just see. Wait. Okay. Well, thanks for joining us. And if you watch this online in the future, it will be posted online. So if you're logging in from the future, hello, and please feel free to get in touch if you have any questions. Okay. Great. Shall I hit stop here?